Huh.
Oddly enough, I got to put my visor on. Oddly enough, I think what I'm looking at here is they're already mostly full. What I do with my super glue, I don't want to knock it over. There we go. All right. So I got definitely got some open slots here. Just couldn't see it. I got some here that filled up apparently with super glue. And actually, that doesn't look bad just like that. This other side that I've already filled, I haven't filed yet, and I may just go back and drop some more glue in. Now these sunk in. I think, excuse me, I think I'll just reapply in this instance. So I'm gonna go. I got a lot of weight. I don't know where the weight came from. Dust in my. Remember, I previously folded my paper up and set it aside, and so I just unfolded it, brought it back, and that is what I'm putting in the ends of these slots. But right here in the middle, I'm sure you're not going to be able to see that in the camera. Right here in the middle, I can see some white dust of some kind that's in there, and I don't know where that came from. I don't think there was anything white on this board, well, other than fret markers, but heaven forbid I'd have that much dust in there from these little tiny fret markers. Anyway, so second application of rosewood in these little slots. If I was using the thicker glue, which I would if I had a decent bottle, I can't get my little whip tip over the end of my thick super glue because it's too got too much gunk on it. Anyway, I don't want to just bore the snot out of you with this, so that's what I'm doing. I'm just filling the ends. I'm going to take, and I use my visor, by the way, because otherwise I can't see what I'm doing fine enough. Oh, and you're really not getting much of a close-up on this, are you? So you still can't really see the fret ends, but so it is difficult to get just a little teeny drop. It wants to come out of here a lot faster. You could never do it without the whip tip thing on here. I have tried to locate these things from other sources other than StuMac or LMI, and they're just I found them online on Amazon, I believe. You get like 5 or 10 of them if you buy this one particular company's super glue. You get 5 or 10 whip tips with it, but they don't sell them individually that I could find, and that kind of ticks me off. I think I mentioned before in another video, I tried to find, I'm just drop filling this one right here because it wouldn't hold any other rosewood, and this one's also very shallow, so I'm just going to put a drop in there, 2 drops. Anyway, I tried to find some of the pipettes with the hole the size that the ones I got from StuMac. I'm not trying to mispronounce that. I'm just being a spaz. StuMac. I could not find any of the same size tip. They're very, very fine, like the whip tip. And the ones I found are much larger than those, and so you can suck some super glue up in those things, but man, it's just like turning the bottle over. They're not very dainty, and so I use them for other things that when I'm not that concerned about making a mess, basically. The other thing is I'll suck up Titebond in there, because they're big enough to suck Titebond up into, and take it down into a guitar and squeeze some glue under a brace or something with that. But I'm still kind of searching for those. Seems like they should be out there somewhere. All right, none of those look like they're deep enough to get any dust in, so kind of hit the ones that I did put dust in, and you just kind of make a little ball of little bubble of glue on the end of that, and then just touch down. If you get in, I was way out of the screen. Heavens, you haven't seen 90% of what I did. Anyway, okay. So apologize for that. You got the basic idea here. Put some dust in the slot, put a dab of glue on it. You could also use the lacquer stick, the melt-in lacquer stick for this. This happens to be black across here, right? They painted the edge of the fretboard black right here, and then actually right at the body it transitions to the rosewood color. You can see it just stops here. So I could have taken ebony dust even and put it in there to match that black. Once you hit it with super glue tends to turn whatever grain, whatever wood you're using as a filler, to make it darker. And so I knew that wouldn't be an issue if I went ahead and did it with the rosewood. You can kind of see over here. Now I am just going to go. Now I got some deep ones out here over the extension, and then this is full. This is not quite full. That's full. The other thing is, if you fill up a hole with super glue and it's black in the hole, then it just basically looks black on the outside. So it's really, this is just not, it's not a critical step here as far as, somebody's going to look at this. I mean, the fret slot is 20 thousandths, roughly 22. Nobody's going to look at this with their naked eye and go, oh gosh, look at that. That's just the worst thing I've seen. I can see a 1/4 of a millimeter of shade off there. So I'm being facetious. I'm that guy. I'm that guy that would do that, checking somebody's guitar out. So I guess that's what makes me think of stuff like that. But I am, didn't mean to go off in this direction. I'm way more critical of my own work than I am of anybody else's. Although it doesn't sound like that when you listen to me talking about the guy that did that Les Paul fret job. Okay. So, can you see what I'm doing there? Am I in the screen? Yes, I am in the screen. Alright, so I just dumped some more rosewood on there, and it's just this one slot, and because it's open, and I'm going to put a drop of glue on it. And I think if you don't have the idea by now, I'm not conveying it correctly. Wow, I think the end of my bottle filled up with rosewood. Alright, I really am going to just turn the camera off now and get to doing the rest of this. I got a lot of film in the can, so just to give you an idea where all this is coming up the pipe. I just posted the Goya video this morning, the first Goya video. I don't know if I'm going to do 2 or 3 more. That depends on how much total footage I have on that. Then I'm going to I've got video of my what build is that? The 9-string Nighthawk video. I got a lot of that video. I glued up a neck blank for that project. I got video of that. I got the Les Paul over there, getting a refret, and then of course I've got this Martin with the reset and the refret. So anyway, I got a lot of video coming up. It's a lot more fun working on the guitar and filming the video than it is sitting at the computer trying to edit out all the stupid things I say. Although you hear most of the stupid things I say because I'm just not that good at editing. And I didn't edit any at all of the first video, so if you really want to see me at my stupidest, go on back and watch the early videos. Anyway, thanks for watching. I don't know if this is going to be at the end of the video, so I'll probably cut it out. See ya. All right, back on the Martin 78 Martin reset refret. So did the fill on the edges of the frets and did a kind of a preliminary file down on those. There again, fine file. And I've already done this, and I'm going to have a little bit of touch up here and there as far as that goes, but just straight up, exactly straight. Now see, I'm not reefing on this thing by any means, but if there's anything sticking out there, this file will be cutting it, and it's riding. So it's just on top of the finish. I can roll it back a little bit around toward the back of the neck, which is definitely where you want to be careful to take off the humps of super glue. And like I said, I've already done that, and it's pretty much right there. So from this point, once I round over my fret ends, excuse me, once I do the little trick on the fret ends, and I get into actually recrowning, polishing, and all that kind of stuff, then as you work up through the grits, you can't see anything. I'm sorry, I got to move this down. You work up through the grits, and as you do all this stuff, you just work your way up through the grits. When you get, at first, definitely just on a block, so you're nice and flat, and you don't run the risk of running anything just randomly over the finish. Obviously, any scratch you get in the finish, you've got to continue to work that scratch out. So you don't really want to start over here until you get to some finer paper. I would say 600 and up, maybe 400. So anyway, just on a flat block, 400 grit here, just to make sure that you've worked that super glue all the way down to the original finish. And then you can go at that point 600 with just your fingers on paper on the edge of this, and that helps to develop that whole rollover on the end of the fret. So I'm going to demonstrate that. I know I said it just a little earlier that I really wasn't going to do that yet, but it's not going to hurt anything to do it at this point, even if it's just for demonstration purposes. So here's that file I was telling you about. It's just a 3-corner file. Put a wood handle on it with a little copper ferrule, but I taped that because the copper coupling had a sharp edge on it. I taped the end of it because when you're looking at what you're doing, sometimes you forget, and you're pointing into the top of the guitar on the other side, and that can cause problems. So this is actually I think this is the first time I've refretted an acoustic neck with it not in the guitar. That brings up one other thing. So I actually leveled this off. Now before I get into the fret ends, I wanted to mention that. Remember I was saying I wanted to be a few thousandths of relief, And like I said, this has been a quick and dirty, you know, a couple times over with the block. And so I'm at feeler gauge is 3/1000, and so you know, I'm catching here. I'm sliding into there. I'm catching this one a little bit, which is kind of weird. So I still got a little spot here that's a little lower. The main thing is that these are all pretty consistent. I just got this one low one in the process. So here's these are got a little bit of pressure on them, and then you get out here and it's a little freer. But I'm right at 3/1000 out here, and then we're tightening up again. So it's nothing that as far as the relief is concerned, nothing I won't be able to really dial in right from the fret tops themselves. And then down here on the extension, you can see I've got I got a lot of room here, but remember, this is diving off. It tweaked down a little bit from the fretting. So once it's in the guitar is when I'm going to have to do my final stuff, right? So right now is really a good opportunity to come over and do the ends without having to risk. I'm going to move this. I use these for weight. They're just ankle weights. Gives me an opportunity to come in and actually do the thing we were talking about without worrying about hitting the guitar. So it's safe on one edge, not these two. Some people will go ahead and do all three edges. I figured I could keep up with where I was, and so far I have. So anyway, you know, it's, you know, I didn't clean up my my super glue. I had a little bubble of super glue hanging out there on that one. So there again, I'm doing this just to show the process more than anything. At this point, I waxed this board, by the way, before I put the super glue down. This, in theory, that helps you get it off, although that was pretty tough. So you just hit it like that, like that. Now the safe edge is what's running against the edge of the board. And all I'm doing is I'm cutting off that sharp edge on that 30-degree bevel. Now this is usually a place where you can't do this. You have to come in and do little short strokes here because it's usually over the body. But in this case, I'm not having to do that. Oops. I'll tell you the early wine, the older Dan Early wine videos on fretting. That is where I got, I'm going to say, all of my information. I've seen a lot of other videos, but those videos definitely have worked for me. So if you're interested in seeing some really detailed stuff, and they're the real early ones. So, and there's all, basically I think I got all three of them. There was a, what was that called? There's fretting basics, and then there was advanced fretting 1 and 2, I believe. And he goes into a lot of the stuff about compression fretting, different things, which it actually took me a long time before I actually used any of that, because you know, when you're first getting into this thing, nobody wants to hand you their vintage Martin and say, hey, you know. But I've been at this long enough now, I've built up some cred here with the locals. So anyway, those first few videos were really, really helpful. The other thing is that he had like special guests, and 3 guys, and I can't remember, Terry Thompson or Terry Thomas was one of them. He's an old Martin expert, and he went into a lot about bar frets on those videos. The other guy's Frank Ford, who's he's a little tweaky, but he's a genius. And he's got a segment in those videos where he's showing his process, and this is actually his process. This whole thing where you just kind of like right up the board, and then and also this little bit I'm going to do now. The other guy was a guy as far as crowning and sanding the crown out and all that. It was a guy that was he was part of Fender's custom shop early on, something to do with Fender early on. I don't remember his name, but I use his method almost down to the letter for crowning and sanding out the crowns and all that kind of stuff, where you don't get into touching the top. Once you've gotten the top of your frets where you want them, you don't want to touch those things until you get down to about 1,000 grit paper. And you don't want to, well, with 1,000 grit it's not as critical. You really don't ever want to cross your once you've done all your leveling, you want to start making all your sanding and filing this way, right? Because you bend your string up the fret, so if the lines are going up the fret, you're not scratching against a perpendicular, you're not bending against a perpendicular scratch mark. Anyway, if those videos are still available, or if they're maybe you find them used on eBay or something, they're well worth whatever they cost you, absolutely. So, and then second step of this rounding your fret ends over is to take this little file. Now this happens to be a StuMac tool. You could modify a little little craft file if you bought a set of files, and you could safe edge it. So this edge is safe. It's got a little rollover on it, and definitely safe. Now that allows you to get right down into that corner I was talking about earlier, unless that was where the video ran out. But anyway, there's this little prickly thing here. When you take this off, you're hitting the fret up away from the board in just that top edge of the fret. So this little file allows you to get right down into that area there, and you just circle it around, and that takes that little sharp corner off that you will feel for the rest of your life if you don't file that thing off. And I don't try to do this really fast. I don't have I got a couple of them going, but it's not like I got them lined up out the door that I have to become a machine at it. So I just take my time and make sure it's doing what I want it to do, and I feel it. There are a couple of these that I haven't cleared the super glue off yet, so I'm going to have to go back and do that, and then actually redo this part of it, just to make sure that I'm getting rid of that little prickly edge. Alright, then we just go the other way. So it's a little bit of a process. It's not, however, terribly difficult. It's not difficult at all. Maybe there's a little bit of a learning curve, a certain amount of coordination involved. This, by the way, is the exact, I don't want to say exact same thing. This is very similar to what, if you had fret sprout, I see a lot of guys on videos talking about fixing fret sprout, and they get a little file like this, and they just go after each fret individually and file it down. And I'm here to tell you that I do fret sprout the same way I did as trimming these off. You just ride up on the up on the bevel a little bit with this, so you're not cutting into your fingerboard, or excuse me, the side of your fretboard, so you're not cutting into that or into the finish. Then you get down to where you're just skimming that finish. I told you can feel it gets slick. Then you're going to roll it over and just catch that little bit of tang hanging out there. That's where you pick up getting that fret sprout off of there. And most times you could do that, and then you can just go back over with a block 600 and hit that. You haven't even taken enough of the fret off that you sharpen the end up again on the very edge. So I got to put my visor on. I don't remember if I flipped this thing around or not. Yeah, I did. So I'm going to do that again. We're going to go down the neck and just do that right down there against the board. Roll that. Anyway, if it's got so much fret sprout in a situation like that that you have to go back and do this to it again, actually clip the corners off like this. I mean, sometimes they do dry down and they're hanging out so far that you really do have to address this again. Then you just have to. You know, if what I did with the flat file, what I showed you with the flat file doesn't take care of it, that and like I said, a little block of 400, 600, and then buff it all back up, then you're going to have to just do this. Now, once you get to this point, and it's not something I'm going to demonstrate at this moment, because this is, you know, these really, when you look at these through the visor and you can see them, and it's just a clipped corner and a little rounded, you know, dealie right there, and then it's got file marks on it and it's rough looking. It feels fine. It feels better than a whole lot of brand new guitars I play. Because they really don't even do this in some of these factories. I think they pound frets in and they take them over to a belt sander and a wide belt, and they just hold the neck up to a wide belt and just sand it down, roll them up a little bit, do the same, flip it over, and that is their fret end treatment. And right now, I don't have any fret ends that are grabbing me, and I haven't sanded squat on this thing. So it's it's a proven method, and that, like I said, that I got from Frank Ford. Once in a while, and then if you don't know who Frank Ford is, look up frets.com and watch some of his stuff. He's a repair expert, to say the least, and he's kind of the guru of all things Martin. Now see, I can see, and you're not going to be able to see it in the camera, but I can see right here that I was a little high when I rounded this corner, so I have a bit of metal sticking out right here that I can see now. I've got an edge on this. This one is not safe, but it's square, so I can get in there and I can just snag that little piece right there without putting any down pressure on it. So there you go. Now I will, before I'm done, I will go back over everything and check all that under my visor with really good magnification. I'm kind of a pain in my own butt when it comes to this stuff.